All right, welcome to Life Extension Live. I'm Dr. Mike. I'm here with my co-host, Dr. Crystal Gossett. Great to see you.
Yes.
We're here in our new studios, coming to you live from Fort Lauderdale. Hot Fort Lauderdale. And
It is hot.
And we're going to talk about that today. It is hot outside, Dr. Crystal.
Who are you telling?
Let me tell you, walking,
With the humidity, it just makes it even
so
hotter.
Bad. Walking Charlie in the morning is such a struggle nowadays. So, but you know, summertime's the time when we want to be out, barbecuing, picnics, all that kind of stuff. But we have to talk about the extreme heat that we are dealing with, and we want to make sure that everybody is safe. So today we're going to talk about some ways to prevent getting sick outside. There you go. We're going to talk about the types of heat-related illnesses, how to prevent them, and of course then best treatments, right? So let's get started. Hey Robson, let's start with the graph. Let's just throw that up there. Because, you know, Dr. Crystal, at the end of the day, it's the heat is there, it's been there, it's there. It seems like it's getting worse. What are we looking at here? What are these graphs telling us?
We're looking at the heat wave frequency, which is the number of heat waves that occur every year, duration, the length of each individual heat wave in days, meaning a heat wave 1 or 2 days versus that heat wave lasting 7 to 8 days.
And they're going all the way back to the 1960s.
Right.
Okay.
Season length, the number of days between the first heat wave of the year and the last, and then of course intensity. And what you're seeing is we are trending
it's all up. It's all up, right?
It's all up.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, the latest National Climate Assessment says that the heat wave season has increased by more than 49 days since the 1960s.
That's so it's been hot. It is hot, and it's getting hotter.
Yeah, it's just not all in your head. Sometimes you're thinking, man, is it just me?
No, when I'm outside, it is hot. I mean, I know we all can relate to that. And you know, here's the thing. So heat awareness, being aware of extreme heat and knowing what to do, especially if you start feeling a little weird out there, is extremely important. So let's get started with this.
Yeah.
I want to start off with something called heat exhaustion. That's kind of where most people are dealing with, right?
Yes.
Tell us about heat exhaustion. How does it relate to heat-related illness?
Yes, well, it's actually a type of heat-related illness, and you can see some of the symptoms: dizziness, thirst, heavy sweating, weakness, nausea. What's happening here is, you know, your body is losing fluid, right? You're heating up. The body is not able to really adapt to that change in temperature, and so that's your heat exhaustion. But there is a way for you to kind of tell if the heat exhaustion is on the way.
If it's on the way, there's a big symptom, right, that we want to watch out for. Because before you say it, because when I look at those symptoms, right, heavy sweating, I'm a heavy sweater.
Right.
I'm out. It's hot out there, right? I get a little thirsty, right? But there's something that if it happens, I should be really aware of, right?
Your first sign that something's wrong are cramps.
Cramps. That's
if
the key
you
thing.
are cramping, then that's a sign that you're on your way to heat exhaustion. So what you're seeing here is just how it progresses. Heat cramps typically come first, then you have your heat exhaustion. Now the cramps, that's the sign that your body, you're losing those minerals. The sodium is being lost, your electrolytes. Then you have the heat exhaustion, and then worst case scenario, heat stroke, which is an emergency.
Right. So take home message for everybody watching. By the way, thanks for joining us today. And Crystal, Dr. Crystal, you're following Facebook, right?
I am, and yes, we can give a shout out: Jimmy, Tata, Rick, Linda.
Hey, Linda.
PJ, Ray,
all right.
Carrie. We have a lot of people watching. Thank you for your support.
Ask questions. We love. We'll do our best to answer right away. Plus, we got somebody that's monitoring the chat there. So back to our discussion. So take home message. Take home message. Cramping. If you're outside, you know, and you start to cramp, it's probably time to slow down.
Yes.
Get in some shade. Get some water.
Or
right?
if you're in your home, you know, what you're finding, and we'll talk about the vulnerable population, but
Right.
what we're finding is the elderly individuals are starting to suffer from heat exhaustion or stroke in their homes. They don't realize that what they're dealing with truly is a result of the heat.
Right, because so it's hard. So here in South Florida, right, and I also grew up in Texas, right. Everybody had AC. And I have AC right now. So when you tell me to like think of cramps when I'm in my house, I'm like, what? My house is like 68. I'm not worried about heat anything in my house. And when I lived in Texas, the same thing. But when I lived in Southern California too. No AC.
No AC. Washington State, no AC. Those northern states.
And they're hitting hundreds for several days, and that's a problem.
Yeah, and their bodies aren't adapted, Dr. Mike. So we're down here in South Florida. We can handle the heat for the most part. Our bodies are a little more adapted to. You take someone who hasn't normally been in these hot climates and expose them to that.
And no AC, that's bad. That's bad and dangerous. All right, so let's talk about who's at risk then for heat-related illnesses like heat, exhaustion. I know right away the first one you wanted to talk about were the kids, right?
Absolutely. Your kids, make sure your little strollers, buy one of those clip fans. They're about $10,
right? That helps.
Yes, you may have to. They go to your local store. They're great. Make sure that the kids aren't they have nice loose fitting clothes. Yeah. Cotton is best.
Yeah, and the strollers. I don't have kids, so I don't know all this, but I see the parents in my neighborhood. You want to make sure that stroller has a nice cover too. You can pull it back, get a little sun, but then pull that back to get them some shade. And then of course, over 65 is a big at-risk group. But listen, in general, if you're outside and it's extreme heat and you're not hydrated and you're not doing some preventative measures, anyone is at risk for at least heat exhaustion.
Yes, and your athletes, make sure you're not, if you're going to football practice or soccer practice.
Two per days for football during Texas.
Don't go on an empty stomach, but I read a case report of an athlete, a child, that suffered from a heat stroke. And so you have to tell your coach if you're not feeling well.
Yeah, we used to do the two-a-days in Houston, Texas, starting in August, and they used to give us salt tablets.
Oh.
That was the thing in the 80s.
I don't think they suggest that anymore,
Dr. I don't think, but then we did. We had water and then salt tablets.
Or pickle juice.
I've heard of the pickle juice.
I was a band geek, so we used to have band camp all day in the hot sun.
And you had some pickle juice just in case.
Pickle juice.
And of course you liked it because it was just salty. It was good. All right, those with heart disease, if you have circulation issues, obesity, all of these could be risk factors. But tell us about some medications too. Yeah,
so beta blockers, of course diuretics, because you're losing your electrolytes. That's a common concern. Antihistamines, tranquilizers, antidepressants. There's a pretty hefty list of medications. So make sure you talk to your pharmacist, talk to your doctor to find out if maybe you need to avoid extreme temperatures.
Yeah. So here's my plan.
Okay.
Overall healthy, right? I'm not on those medications. It's hot outside. I'm just going to drink a bunch of water before I go out. Is that a good strategy or plan?
Well, this is the one time I will probably say water, just plain water, may not be the only solution to your problem.
Right.
Our water nowadays, ultra purified. We've removed all of the electrolytes, everything that you kind of need when you're sweating. So water's great, but a mineral water is better.
Might be a little bit better right before you go out.
Right, and you need to pair that water with food. So if you're just drinking water and skipping meals, that you're missing out on those key nutrients,
the minerals and stuff like that too. And you and I have this kind of new saying, or I don't know what it is, it's something we believe now, that it's better to hydrate throughout your day than just guzzle a bunch of water and go do something, right?
Very true. And Dr. Mike laughed. That's what my phlebotomist tells me.
Don't
try to chug water right before you go to have a blood draw. You need to hydrate throughout the week, properly hydrate. And it's the same concept.
Yeah, you just told me that today, but we've been talking about this idea of hydrating that
Yes.
longer than that. All right, so that's so yes, water, maybe add some minerals. That's good, but hydrate throughout the
And
day.
that's the
key
time where
point.
sports drinks are great, and then avoid the caffeine and the alcohol. Have to say that, Dr. Mike.
Right. So so if we're talking about heat exhaustion, we saw some of those the cramping's your first sign. We saw some of those symptoms and stuff. How long? Like if I'm in that place, I'm feeling those symptoms. I do what we need to do. Get out of the sun, get in some shade, get inside.
Yeah.
Right. If you can, start to hydrate. How long is this going to last? How long am I going to feel bad?
About an hour.
That's important, right?
That's about an hour. That's important because if you're not feeling better after about an hour, call 911. You're dealing with a medical emergency.
Yeah.
Because with heat stroke, something we didn't talk about is it can start damaging your kidneys, and so it's important to seek medical attention. Yes.
Some of the things we can do, like rest in a cool place, remove excess clothing, cold, wet towels can be helpful. And then, of course, if none of that's working, it's a couple hours, call your doctor, at least maybe even 911. What about lasting effects now with heat exhaustion?
Not with heat exhaustion, but heat stroke. We had a study where some people up to 2 years later still are experiencing some of the cognitive impairments and lasting impairments from that heat stroke. So that is one aspect, one heat-related illness that is pretty serious.
It's a medical. That's the key thing. So cramping. That's your first sign. Feeling some heat stroke symptoms. I mean heat exhaustion symptoms. Please act right away because that next level, that next step, is a true medical emergency. You can have organ damage, long-lasting effects. You don't want to go to the hospital with heat stroke. And remember, it's not just kids, it's not just people over 65. When it's this high, it's so hot out there, everyone is at risk. So make sure you understand those symptoms.
And it can happen faster than you would imagine.
Yeah. We have some prevention tips, right?
Yes.
Let's look at those. There you go. I mean, these are pretty, straightforward, but it's good to keep these in mind, right?
That second tip, schedule around the hottest part of the day. That's not what you want to do. You don't want to schedule during midday, like the 11 to 12 o'clock time. So what we're saying there is you want to schedule to be indoors.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna schedule 1 p.m. walk Charlie.
No.
That's just way too hot. What instead? That's the time to be inside. That's the time to play with them inside.
Right.
You work from home. Whatever you're doing. Obviously, light clothing. I worry sometimes. I see some of these people who are exercising and walking fast, jogging, whatever it is, and they got the tight, dark clothes because they're trying to sweat. I just don't think that's a good idea. Medication, we went through that, and of course, avoid alcohol if you're planning to be outside for any prolonged period, and drink lots of water, and also think about the minerals as well. All right, so nutritional support.
Some interesting findings
here.
here.
Let's talk a little bit about things you can consider on the nutritional side to help prevent any heat-related illness, basically.
Right. So, of course, regular meals. I can't emphasize that enough because so many people exercise on an empty stomach. They're just going out in the hot sun, not adequately prepared. Electrolytes, of course, carbs. Glutamine was an interesting one that I saw, Dr. Mike. And what's nice about glutamine is that it helps to support heat shock proteins.
Okay, I know what those are.
Yeah, so those
Maybe they don't.
Your heat shock proteins, these are kind of, I'd like to call them chaperones for your cell, and they kind of go into action and activate whenever that cell is under stress.
Yeah. And so they're a good thing. They're a defense mechanism, and you're saying here glutamine might play a role in that.
Yes.
That's really interesting. How many? How many people watching right now exercise on an empty stomach? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, let's see.
Is that now? Is there a reason for that?
Yes, I'll tell you why.
Okay. Is anybody saying yes online?
I'm checking.
I find that odd. I don't know.
No, so the idea is to get into fat burning mode faster.
So basically, no calories in your system. You're going to burn fat. Okay. Yeah. All right. Not a good thing in the extreme heat. right?
Not in the, no,
I
exactly.
mean, if you want to do that, stick to the gym.
Or have some type of carbohydrate drink. You know, that's where your, like the Gatorades and the Powerades and all those aids come in.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they have the sugar, they have the electrolytes, and the water, of course.
Go back to the glutamine. You wrote down here 2 hours before you're outside. Take some glutamine. That might be protective.
Yes, or you can load over a 7-day period, because the amount of glutamine that's been shown to be beneficial is pretty hefty, about 0.9 grams per kilogram. So that's a lot of glutamine. Yeah. So you may want to slowly do that, you know, up to 7 days before any strenuous extreme heat.
Like if you're in some sort of maybe 5K or something like that, 7 days for glutamine. This was interesting to me. You found some interesting research about folate and how it may prevent some of the heat-related illnesses.
Yeah, so folate, one of your B vitamins, of course, and it can help with, at 5 milligrams in research at 6 weeks, helps to improve vasodilation. So it's just helping the body to produce nitric oxide, which helps with that overall response of sweating, and how the body just needs to adapt from that heat. And you find younger individuals typically are able to adapt faster, stronger response than older adults. So when you look at the study that I mentioned that used the 5 milligrams, they kind of compared the young and old response, and it supported the older individual's ability to respond like the younger individuals.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I'm in that older group now. I need some folate. Now I get some out of the multivitamin, but especially if I know I have some event coming up, I'm going to be outside, I might load up on a little extra folate maybe for a few days.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, we just want to round all this out. You know, the good news is, you know, if you follow some preventative measures, you can protect yourself. You can avoid heat-related illnesses. But boy, if you're cramping, man, that's a big sign. If you start developing some of those other symptoms of, like, you know, you're getting dizzy, those kind of things,
nausea,
heavy sweating, right there, you got to stop. You got to take care of yourself. And the good news is, if you do that, very rarely does it become the medical emergency heat stroke.
Right. But if you stop sweating,
that's a big thing. So if you're doing all this and you're you know, maybe you're 10, 15 minutes into, like, trying to take care of yourself, and you notice, oh, I'm not sweating anymore, I must be doing better. That actually might not be a good sign.
Right.
Because heat stroke is associated with not sweating anymore, and you're not able to get that heat out of your body.
Yeah.
So take care of yourself out there. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control recommends calling 911 if you observe someone with signs of heat stroke. Remember, it's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. What a great show.
Yes.
A lot of great information. Take care of yourself, you guys. It's hot out there. We want you to be active. We want you to enjoy summer. Right?
Yes.
The picnics, the barbecues. Maybe just do them later in the day.
Yes.
Right? You know?
Start the barbecue around 5.
Yeah, yeah. Be near, maybe do it near a pool.
Yes.
Have some water around, a lake, a beach, you know, whatever that is, because that's a great way to cool off, you know, as well. And if you want to learn more about this, go check out heat.gov, right? Heat.gov. There it is. And there's a lot of good information there.
You can look at the current conditions in your neighborhood to find out if there's a heat index, heat advisory.
Look at that map.
Look out for those. I know. And that's real time.
That's real. I mean, it was all red. All in the South, all red. Yeah, yeah. All right. So take care of yourself. Dr. Crystal, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Dr. Mike.
Don't forget, we go live every Wednesday at 3 o'clock. We really appreciate you joining us. Please like, share, make your comments. We love to interact with you. And don't forget to go ahead and subscribe so that you always know that we're going live, right? We'll give you a little notice that we're going live. So thanks for joining us again. I'm Dr. Mike. Take care.